everyone, welcome back to the Shivering Mouse. I'm so excited to have you back here today. Today we're going to discuss chapter 6, 7, and 8 of the original Trim Healthy Mama book, and I'm so excited to talk to you about it. Number 6, I'm just going to kind of breeze through because if I touched on everything in it, I could legitimately sit here for hours just talking about 6. It basically is just giving you biblical references that support the ideas of what Trim Healthy Mama presents, kind of the idea of that you can't be just cutting any whole food group out of your diet. It talks about instances in the Bible where people eat bread, instances where they eat butter, lots of points where they eat different meats, that kind of thing, and that it says that you shall eat these things, not, well, if you have to choose between this and starving to death, I guess you can have this. It actually supports eating some of these things, and so I think they're pretty explicit about it. Like, they give you actual biblical references. It talks about drinking the blood of the grape, eating the fat of the ram. Those are animal proteins and real fruits, guys. So, you know, it's just supporting kind of that more balanced, gentle approach to nutrition, and that is supported biblically. If you are a Christian, this will mean a lot more to you than if you're not. But if you are a Christian or interested in history, this particular chapter will have great meaning to you as it did to me. They also kind of talk towards the end about how a typical American diet usually ends up with, as you get older and your metabolism slows down, which is perfectly normal for everybody, that everybody tells you, oh, just eat less and then you'll lose weight. Part of the reason why this often doesn't work for people is because as you eat less, you have less energy. A calorie is a measurement of energy, so it's not just something to measure your food pieces with. It's literally like almost like a watt, like it's a measurement of energy. And so as you're consuming fewer of them, you have less energy. Well, when you have low energy, you crave whatever's going to spike your energy the fastest. In other words, sugar and carbs. And so people who eat less and less and less and less to make up for that loss of energy, they tend to eat more carbohydrates along the way. And so they kind of discuss why the typical old-fashioned model of, oh, just eat a little less every year often doesn't work. Chapter 7 just kind of lays down the truths that you should never include large amounts of carbs and fats together in one meal. Oh, Bailey's moving. Because your body has to digest both, and they're both different forms of fuel for your body, different forms of energy for your body to burn. And so if you give your body two fuel sources at once, it'll consume one and store the other. Like these little chubby cheeks, you know, it'll save these chubby cheeks for later. And I don't want these chubby cheeks anymore, right? So you don't want to give your body something to keep you running now. Hey, she's gone, I can sit back. Something to keep you running now and something to store away for later. You don't want to even give it that option. And that's kind of the whole premise between the S&E meals of Trim Healthy Mama. The whole idea is just giving your body one fuel at a time so that it doesn't have extra food to store. This will help maintain body weight. Then, by spacing them out and balancing your blood sugar, it helps you to continue to lose. That brings us to chapter 8, which is about the S meal. This is the first of our main 2 meals that we're going to be dealing with on the Trim Healthy Mama diet. Keto people are going to be very familiar with this. Atkins people, you know, people from my kind of lower carb version of dieting are going to be really familiar with the S meal. It is my jam. It's my comfort zone. It is the low carb, medium to high fat meal. Obviously, all Trim Healthy Mama meals are centered around a good source of protein, but the protein is kind of paired with a fuel source. And for an S meal, your fuel source is going to be fats, healthy fats, like avocados, salmon, coconut oil, very natural fats. The less processed your food is in general, the more it'll fit into this plan, right? So the S meal is using fat as a fuel source, and then you always pair it with non-starchy veg. That's another thing about Trim Healthy Mama that I like is, unlike the carnivore diet where you eat exclusively meat, on Trim Healthy Mama they do want you to pair a veggie or 2 or 10 with every meal as well, which is nice. I don't mind the carnivore diet as much because, I do feel full with healthy fats and proteins. I just don't feel like it's balanced, and so to me, cutting out vegetables it's a bridge too far. And so for me, with the Trim Healthy Mamas wanting you to pair a veggie with your protein, that makes this ideal, especially if it's a protein and a fat or a protein and a carb. The lack of a vegetable in either of these makes it feel too unbalanced. So that's another reason why this is a great plan for me. So there are great anti-inflammatory benefits to healthy fats, but also, most importantly, it kind of helps you feel full for a long, long time. If you've ever done like a bulletproof coffee where you put fats, some people do butter or ghee or coconut, I prefer coconut oil, in my tea. I only do this like once a day just to avoid too much calorie abuse, and I only put in like 1 spoon. But you'll notice that even though you haven't eaten like a full meal with that, just a little bit of fats inside of your tea or your coffee will help you feel full for hours. I mean, seriously, hours, guys. And so to me, that's the strength of the S meal, is that you don't feel hungry. If I have bacon and eggs for breakfast, or even eggs with like tomatoes or eggs on top of a salad, I'll feel full for, oh my gosh, usually till like 1 or 2 in the afternoon. Whereas if I have a cereal or an oatmeal breakfast, I'm usually hungry in an hour or 2. And not even like I'm bored so I want to eat, but like actually tummy rumbling hungry. It's frustrating. So S meals are my jam. The biggest difficulty with S meals is to watch out for what Serene and Pearl call frankenfoods, or what keto people will call dirty keto foods instead of clean keto foods. These are fake oils like canola oil, soybean oil, things that have been really, really processed, usually in really high heat. In general, the harder it is to get the oil from its food source, the more unhealthy that oil usually is for you. This is not always true, because with food, as in chemistry, there are always exceptions to the rules and exceptions to the exceptions to the rules. But in general, the harder it is to get that naturally occurring oil out of the fruit or vegetable it's from, the more processed that is and the worse it is for you. So something with like coconut, where you break open the coconut, not like this, you actually like have to hammer it, but you break open your coconut, and once you get all the milk out of the way, you can still see kind of like the oily surface inside on the white meat of the coconut that is the coconut oil. And it's actually pretty easy to make coconut oil. You can find different places right here in YouTube that'll tell you how to do it. But in other words, it doesn't have to be heated to 8,000 degrees, then squished out of a press machine and stuff like that. It's really not super processed, and those are the kind of fats you want to look for. You want to have proteins that have some fat in them, like a roast or a steak, but not ones that are super, super processed, like sausage and stuff like that. You can have the occasional sausage. I'm a Pearl, not a Serene. I'm a drive-through Sue, what they call. I'm not a super experienced cook. I'm getting better as I do the plan more and stuff like that. But especially now that I've had the opportunity to stay home, I can actually play around with cooking a lot more than I did working. I just didn't have the time or the energy to try different recipes and see if they'd work out, and even if they worked out, would I like them? And then if I didn't, then I made all of that for nothing, and it's expensive to experiment with cooking. So, being home gives me the time to kind of mess around with that, which is nice. I'm getting quite a bit better at it. But the point is, you just need to have things that aren't super, super processed. It's better to make home if you can. So if you can throw a stock pot on the fire with some bones and make some real broth, do it. If you can't, you can buy it from the store, but it always has a lot of salt and sometimes a lot of sugar. So a lot of these things are just better for you to make at home if you can. So pages 72 through 76 in the book here, if you need a shortcut, 72 through 76 are lists of foods that fall easily within this S meal group. Now, these S meals, while they do have the protein and the fat is their main fuel, do bear in mind that means that you have to cut down the carbs, because as I mentioned before, you don't want the carbs and the fats because your body will use one and store one for later. And since glucose is the easier of the two fuels to break down, your body will always burn the sugar first and store the fat. Always. If it doesn't have the sugar, then it'll burn the fat, which is why sometimes after you have like a spoonful of coconut oil, you feel a little bit of an energy rush to kind of boost you through your afternoon. Not like a big one like you get from caffeine, but just, you're able to kind of push through that afternoon hump. That's because your body is burning the fat instead of the carbs. And it's a little more gentle on you because it is a little harder to break down, so it breaks down a little more slowly. But yeah, so your body will always burn the glucose first. So these meals are pretty good at helping you burn the fats. So next video, we're going to cover a couple more episodes of the podcast, and then we'll hop in with your other fuel source, your emails. And thank you so much for tuning in today. If you do want to support me and support this channel, you can find me at patreon.com/shiveringmouse. I almost forgot to mention it. I'm really bad at like plugging myself because I feel really bad coming to people with my hands open. It just feels really rude, but they tell you all over on YouTube, you gotta do it, you gotta do it. So patreon.com/shiveringmouse. You can also get access to my podcast there. It's a Disney podcast, so all of the episodes about the Walt Disney World parks are free. All of the episodes about Disney characters and history and literature, kind of deeper dives into those characters, those are behind the paywall, but it is in fact a $1 paywall. So for as little as $1 a month, you can access the other half of my content. Right now we're reading through the Chronicles of Narnia, and so, kind of diving into the Disney movies versus the actual stories, and as I read through it, you can kind of spot the differences. So if you wanted to support that or just support my Trim Healthy Mama journey, please check me out at patreon.com/shiveringmouse, and thank you so much for tuning in today. I can't wait to see you again. Have a great day.